Hello, good afternoon. I'm teacher Thinn from Tech English. Today, I'd like to discuss features of academic writing. Academic writing, features tega bhari phimale. First of all, as a writer of academic English, we need to make our writing complex. So it must have complexity. Yes, if you want IELTS band 6 or band 7, your writing must have the feature of complexity. So what does it mean? So written language is relatively more complex than spoken language. So you are encouraged to use more complex sentences than simple ones, of course. So use linkers like because, as, since to show reason, though, although to show contrast. So contrast ပြမယ်ဆိုရင် though, although ဒါလေးတွေသုံးလို့ရမယ်။ဒါမှမဟုတ်ဘူးဆိုရင် reason ပြမယ်ဆိုရင် because, as, since ဒါလေးတွေသုံးလို့ရမယ်။ပြီးရင် whereas, while ဒီလို conjunction တွေလည်းသုံးလို့ရတယ်။ဒါမှကိုယ့်ရဲ့ writing က complex ဖြစ်မှာ complex ဖြစ်မှာအမှတ်များများရမယ်။ academic writing မှာ formality ကလည်းအရေးကြီးတဲ့အခန်းကဏ္ဍတွေပါပါတယ်။ So English လို့ပြောရမယ်ဆိုရင် academic writing is relatively formal. In general, this means that in an essay, you should use formal expressions instead of colloquial words or expressions. So think about your tone of writing and make simple changes to them. So instead of saying, this will find out, you should say, this will investigate. So investigate ဆိုတဲ့စာလုံးကို find out စာသုံးလို့ရတယ်။ This will look at လို့ပြောမယ်စာ this will examine ဆိုပြီးတော့ပြောလို့ရတယ်။ဥပမာစာလုံးတွေအများကြီးရှိပါတယ်။ I will just have a short discussion လို့ပြောမယ်စာ brief discussion လို့ပြောလို့ရတယ် speed up လို့ပြောမယ်စာ accelerate လို့ပြောလို့ရတယ် change လို့ပြောမယ်စာ alter လို့ပြောလို့ရတယ်ဥပမာ take part in လို့ပြောမယ်စာ participate လို့ပြောလို့ရတယ်focus on လို့ပြောမယ်စာconcentrate on လို့ပြောလို့ရတယ် make something less လို့ပြောမယ်စာ reduce လို့ပြောလို့ရတယ် something like that. So you can find these out in dictionary and you can Google them, of course, which words are formal, which words are informal. Okay, number 3. And another feature of academic writing is precision. So in academic writings, facts and figures are given precisely, and language needs to be specific too. So avoid using general terms like good, bad, simple. Yeah. For example, it's a good dish. What do you mean it's a good dish? Is it delicious? Is it tasty? Be specific, be precise on what you want to say. Now, objectivity. So lots of people don't understand what do you mean by objectivity. IELTS writing academic writing ဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့ objectivity ဆိုတဲ့ feature ကရှိရမယ် So what does it mean by that? English လို့ပြောချင်မယ်နော် Written language is in general, it is objective rather than personal. So this means that the main emphasis should be given on the information you want to give and the arguments you want to make rather than you. ဒါကြောင့်မို့ IELTS writings characteristics တစ်ခုက objectivity ရှိရမှာဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့ example ပေးတာတောင်မှ you မိမိအကြောင်းဒါမှမဟုတ်မိမိရဲ့ family အကြောင်းပြောမဲ့အစား the example တောင်မှ solid ဖြစ်တဲ့ the example that the information is shared between you and the examiner, between you and the public. လူတိုင်းနားလည်နိုင်တဲ့သိတဲ့ information တစ်ခုကို examiner အနေနဲ့ပေးတာပို့ပြီးတော့အဆင်ပြေတယ် rather than ကိုယ့်အကြောင်းပြောမဲ့စာ Okay. For example, let's say water shortage မဖြစ်ဖို့အတွက်အများကြီးကြီးတယ် or for example last week in my house there was water shortage ပြောမဲ့အစား in our township in Yangon, for example, in Yangon there was a water shortage which resulted in အဲ့ဒါကပို့ပြီးတော့ကောင်းတဲ့ example ဖြစ်တယ်မိမိရဲ့အိမ်မှာရေ water shortage ဖြစ်တာနဲ့ပြောမဲ့အစားဆိုလိုတာက Don't focus on you in giving examples for academic English. Yeah, focus on the information that you want to give. Focus on the information which can be shared, the knowledge of which is shared between you and the reader. Next one, organization. So academic writing should be well organized. So it flows easily from one section to the next in a logical fashion. Organization is very important. Organization shima coherence na cohesion ma map do yama pite. IELTS ye marking criteria de kuka cohesion and coherence pite de jambo organization ga le yiji. Now de kuka hedging. So many students don't know. They thought that they're writing, oh, my argument has to be strong. So many students start with, like, it is undeniably true that. It is undeniably something. I think it is not right in academic settings. In academic settings, writers need to be cautious and critical about the claims that they make. So with the help of the special language, it's called hedges. So writers can often soften the statement. A good academic writer knows how to soften the statement to avoid criticism rather than being radical and overconfident. Yeah. So instead of saying, for example, my results, the results support previous findings. Support. Yeah. Strongly support, for example, that is too strong. So you need to hedge it to make it more suitable for academic writing. You should say, results seem to support. The results appear to support. Results tend to support. So these are called hedges, appear, seem, tend, yeah. And then also you can use other modal auxiliaries like can, could, may, might. Let's say, for example, the discrepancy is attributed to because of. Instead of saying that, carelessness. Say the discrepancy is attributed to carelessness. So instead of saying that, you should say the discrepancy could be attributed to. You use could or may be attributed to, might be attributed to. So for example, laziness is the main cause of poverty, for example. That's too strong. So instead of saying that, you will say laziness could be one of the causes of. So using one of the is also a way of softening the tone of your writing. Just soften it, yeah. And then the same thing. The number of Omicron patients will increase in the country. Instead of saying that, please use probability phrases like perhaps, possibly, probably, apparently, evidently. If you use them, your language is softened. It's more suitable for academic setting. So you should say the number of patients will probably increase or will possibly increase. Will relatively increase, for example. That's much better. The same thing. Last one, instead of saying, okay, accept, let's say the sentence is acceptance rates here are high. That's okay. But if you want to hedge it, you can use frequency adverbs like occasionally, sometimes, generally. You can say acceptance rates are generally high. For example, instead of saying, oh, it's hot in Myanmar, so it's generally hot in Myanmar. What's the weather? Oh, it's generally hot. Yeah, in Myanmar, things like that. Okay, and these are the features of academic writing that I have discussed. And finally, to finish off, I'd like to give you some tips and suggestions of IELTS writing. Okay. Just a few tips and suggestions that I will discuss in English and in Myanmar, of course. Okay, to finish off today's lesson on features of academic writing, I'd like to give you some tips in IELTS essay writing, do's and don'ts. Always remember, number one, whatever you do, you must always make it easy for the reader to follow your ideas. If your essay is easy to read, well organized, and if it answers the question fully, then all you have to worry about is grammar and vocabulary. But make sure that you understand the question and you fully answer the question. Because number one, the top in the list of IELTS criteria is task response. So task response means you need to respond to the task fully. So task response ကအရေးကြီးတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့ task response မှာအမှတ်အမြင့်ဆုံးရဖို့အတွက်အရေးကြီးဆုံးကတော့ you need to fully answer every part of the question ပါနောက်တစ်ခု IELTS criteria မှာပါပါတယ် cohesion and coherence အဲ့ဒီမှာအမှတ်အများကြီးရဖို့ဆိုရင်တော့ so အများကြီးရမယ်ဆိုရင်တော့အများကြီးရဖို့အတွက်ကိုအရေးကြီးဆုံးကတော့ paragraphing နဲ့ organization skills ကအရေးကြီးပါတယ် that's why every piece of writing should have at least 3 parts could be more depending on the question always leave a line between each paragraph okay indent the first sentence indentation is also important and leave a margin on both and as I discussed recently use formal language instead of informal expression. So instead of using pros and cons, try and use advantages and disadvantages. Some learners try and use pros and cons. That's not right. Advantages and disadvantages, benefits and drawbacks. If possible, try and use as many linkers as possible. Try and make it natural. But the thing is, use the linkers kutoma, but don't start the sentences with these linkers, like and, don't start with that. So, don't start with that. But because, no. Yeah, you can do that in speaking, but not in writing. Writing, don't start the sentence with and, so, blah, blah, blah. No, in spoken, okay, but not in writing. Don't start with because. No, we don't start with because. Because we can use in the middle, but not at the beginning. Okay, and then do not write short sentences in academic writing. That's very important. At least some say that your sentences should have at least 11 words, roundabout, roughly. Yeah, don't write short sentences. Because as I mentioned, remember just now, one of the features of academic writing, you must have complexity. So if you write short sentences, your writing doesn't have complexity anymore. And then another thing, please paraphrase. Do not copy sentences, phrases from the question. So what does it mean by paraphrase? Paraphrase means rewriting in your own words. Use the main ideas in the question or in the text and rewrite it in your own words. That's paraphrase. So please paraphrase, especially in IELTS. Task 1 or task 2, you need to paraphrase the question, the statement in the introduction. So when you paraphrase, do not copy or phrases as much as you can. Do not do that. And okay, let's think about body. Yeah, when you write IELTS essays in the body, don't just make a series of main points. You know, you say the first. You might start. Okay, there are several reasons why people turn to fast food. Okay, firstly. Okay, and secondly, thirdly, so all the main points, one after the other. No, right? The first main point, expand on it. Expand on it. So how do you do expansion? Give an example. Evidences. Yeah, so always remember, you should just make the point and then expand on it in subsequent sentences. And then another thing, which is very important, never ever use abbreviations or symbols. Write the word out in full. Okay, and finally, good advice to really improve your writing, read a lot. If you read a lot, notice the structures which are useful to your writing, for your writing, try and make use of them. Okay, I think reading and writings are kind of linked, and listening and speaking are kind of linked. That's the best advice I have right now. So today's lecture is on features of academic writing and tips and suggestions for IELTS essay writing. Thank you very much for listening to this lecture and hope to see you again soon.